conditions for you should you want to venture out tonight. We'll tell you what is and what is not being plowed during the snow emergency in the Twin Cities. And we'll go live to Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport to see if things are back to normal there. Good afternoon. Much of Minnesota is trying to dig out of all the snow that has blanketed the state in the past few days.
And those that didn't dig out stayed in. We'll have a full half hour of reports on the winter storm, so let's start things off out at Twin Cities International Airport, which reopened this afternoon after being closed for 24 hours. Carolyn Bruchter has the latest from the airport. Carolyn?
Thank you, Cindy. Right now, things are moving at a crawl, but even that is a lot more than what was happening late yesterday afternoon. Earlier today, snow removal crews were out, and they've been out all night trying to remove the snow that's been out there and also trying to sand. Today, the problem was not so much the snow, but some of the high winds. Crews there were trying to make sure that they could get some sand out there so they could begin to get some traction. They were not able to do that because of the high winds. Either way, at 12:30, the airport finally did reopen. They had flights that were landing. They also had some departures since that time. The first one about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So things slowly started to get back to normal. It's going to take a while, though, because right now they're trying to get passengers on the latest available flight here, and they're also trying to get the people who would normally be coming in on Monday on their flights. So it's going to be a bit of a wait for some people, even though right now they see the hope at the light at the end of the tunnel.
Carolyn, one of the things that I've always thought about at Twin Cities International is that it rarely closes down, and certainly not for a whole day. That indeed was a rare event that happened the last 24 hours, right?
You are certainly right about that. This is only the third time in its history that officials say the airport has closed. Of course, they closed in 1983. That time it was for about 14 hours. We had a pretty bad storm then, too. And it closed last year, but only for about an hour and a half. So that shows you just how bad this storm has been and what the work crews have been trying to take care of. And again, things are getting back to normal. One runway open now. They're trying to open one more.
1 foot at a time.
Thank you, Karen. Weather's getting rougher by the year, it seems. If you are planning on driving tonight, John Lundell of Metro Traffic Control has the latest road conditions around the Twin Cities. John.
Well, thank you, Dennis. It is no easier to open up the roadways right now. If your travel plans take you toward the airport later, watch out. 494 and 35W, a real trouble spot. Icy conditions. A number of accidents already being tended to. Be very careful if you're going to travel there. Up north, 694. There were a couple of jackknife semis that have just cleared out near Matterhorn Drive. Traffic still at a standstill for 694. To the east, a rampway blowing shut again. This time it's eastbound 94 to go to the Lafayette Bridge. Highway Department crews having real difficulty keeping any sand on the roadways at all because of the high winds. So again, the recommendation, no travel at all. I'm John Lundell, Metro Traffic Control. Now back to Cindy and Dennis in the studio.
Thank you, John. Snow emergencies have been declared throughout the Twin Cities.
And with that, of course, comes the usual confusion over where to park. Well, reporter John Altenberg would like to clear that up for all of us. He's standing by live in St. Paul. John?
When they're parked.
Hey, if I can just dig it backwards and pull it into the lot or something like that. I don't know how, but it's going to be done. It has to be done.
Some people did park in better spots than others. If you left your car in the middle of the street, it was towed away, no matter what the hard luck story. The plows out today sometimes strayed off snow emergency routes just to open up traffic. St. Paul has officially begun its snow emergency, plowing emergency routes last night, and today cleaning up east-west streets. Tonight, there's no parking on east-west streets. Beginning tomorrow morning at 8 in St. Paul, there's no parking on north-south streets. The Minneapolis snow emergency begins tonight at 9. Don't park on any snow emergency route until after 8 tomorrow morning, or the towing companies will be after you. Tomorrow in Minneapolis, there's no parking on the even side of residential streets starting at 8 a.m. Starting at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, you can't park on the odd side. In Bloomington, it's a bit easier. Don't park on the street at all until 7 tomorrow morning.
So now, if you live in Minneapolis and you're still confused about where to park, and that's not hard to be considering the rules, the city has established a couple of hotline numbers for the public to call.
They are. It's good. 348-7200, 348-7300.
Right.
So you can find out exactly what the snow emergency rules are in Minneapolis. They can be confusing. Dennis Felkin last Friday gave us a forewarning about what was going to occur this past weekend.
Well, he all but drew us a map, actually, of what was going to happen. We just didn't want to believe it, but by Sunday morning, there was no doubt of what was going on out there.
Hey, do we deliver or do we deliver?
Yeah.
You did this time.
Do it next summer, too, okay?
Oh, okay, we'll see what we can do. Well, color radar right now shows it's not over. We have snow continuing throughout the metropolitan area, eastward and northwestern Wisconsin. Looks like an additional 1 to 2 inches of snow is possible into the early evening hour. We're a little over 16 inches right now at officially out at the airport. Now, as far as the warning situation goes, we have winter storm warnings continuing across just about all of Minnesota, the eastern Dakotas, and northwestern Wisconsin. But in southeastern Minnesota and much of western Wisconsin, it's been downgraded to Trawers advisories. So the worst of the snow and the wind is going to be to the northwest. Here in the heavily built-up urban areas, it looks like things will begin to improve slowly. But again, as we've said throughout this newscast, no travel is advised, really, for the rest of tonight. Just wait till tomorrow if you can. We'll have more on the weather coming up in just a few moments.
Okay. Well, Dennis, as you just pointed out, the storm did not spare many folks around Minnesota. For example, the folks living north of the Twin Cities. Reporter Dave Andrews is in Eveleth, live via News Star 5 with the story of the storm from up there. You know, Dave, when I saw you on Good Company, you were in a little warmer surroundings. I see you didn't have the nerve to sit by a swimming pool again, huh?
No, we were told that we shouldn't do that. We're standing in front of the window, but we're still indoors this time. I'm not stupid enough to be out in the weather like some people, perhaps. The worst of the wind and the snow has finally started to taper off here up in northern Minnesota, but it's still very dangerous around the area, and we're trying to make the most of it here at the Holiday Inn in Eveleth. We have been stranded here all day long, along with about 30 other guests who have either spent the night last night or with some people that had to walk here after their cars got stranded. The worst of the storm hit northern Minnesota early this morning, several hours later than the Twin Cities. Travel here has been virtually impossible all day long. The State Patrol has told everyone to stay off the roads. About midday, a local doctor who tried to make a trip in the storm got stranded near the hotel, and he has now sought refuge here. Did you make it?
Yeah, I think I made it.
You okay?
Yeah.
How far did you have to walk?
I parked my car down at the station here, and I walked up the hill.
And a father and daughter from International Falls who are trying to drive to Duluth are safe and warm tonight after their car got bogged down several miles from the hotel.
And I'll admit I was getting a little bit worried there. As a matter of fact, I was getting worried to the point where I was looking for, we saw some pine trees over there. We could see the needles underneath. We're going to, thinking that we had blankets and everything, we might go over there and build us a little fire.
You've got your little daughter here. Obviously, you're very frightened.
Yeah, I was a little worried, that's right.
You're going to Duluth? But you won't make it today, will you?
No, that's for sure.
Now, it is easy to make light of a storm like this, but in fact, it can be a life-threatening situation for people who do become stranded. And since the storm arrived here about 8 or 10 hours after it did in the Twin Cities, we are that far behind the cleaning up process. And the State Patrol up here is telling all people to stay off the highways. The plows are just now getting back on to try to clear some paths. But it is still a very dangerous situation up here, and caution is well advised, of course. Back to you.
You people will still be sitting it out, and I'm assuming, Dave, you'll drop the pretense and go back to poolside in a few moments.
Well, the pool's about 10 feet away from me here, to be honest with you, Dennis.
You know, what is it, about 10 degrees colder, too, than it is right here in the Twin Cities up where you are, I would imagine.
Yes, it is colder, and that's the concern. You know, it's not the dreadfully cold weather that if you get stranded, theoretically you might be safe if you stayed in your car. But if you try to leave your car with winds like this, the wind chill is very high, and if you should get lost out, miles from nowhere, it is a life-threatening situation. That's why they're telling people to stay off the highways.
Pretty scary.
Thank you. Dave Andrews reporting live on News Star 5. Well, much more news still to come. Money specialist Greg